Well, hi again, everyone. It's Rob Ryder on Sunday, September 3rd, 2023. And today we're going to be talking about claims against the United States at the District Courts of Occupation. Now, who would have thought we could have such a thing as a court of occupation still up and running in the United States? But I'm going to show you that it looks like there is, and it's in Army regulations. So I'm just doing things by regulation because that's in my oath of office. Make sure that people follow the regulations. And I am Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Redlewski, U.S. Army. You know, I never got discharged, so I'm keeping the title. Also known as Rob Ryder. Email address is courtofrecord@aol.com. And YouTube, you find me on Rob Ryder, ROBBBRYTER, yes, with 3 B's. Where you'll find this video and all the other videos I've done on similar types of subjects. But this one is brand new, tributary to go down. So give me just a second to load a few things up. So let's start at the beginning. Apparently, for federal courts, there's like federal courts for Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, and Article 4. And you can find this yourself online, right? Just federal courts, Article 1, 2, 3, and 4 adjudication, Catholic University Law Library, Law Review, in which they talk about that the distinction among several types of federal courts in the United States has gone almost unremarked in the academic literature. Instead, attention focuses on Article 3, constitutional courts, with occasional discussion of how they differ from what is referred to as non-constitutional or legislative courts. At best, these labels are misleading. All federal courts have constitutional locus. Most, but not all, are brought into being via legislation. The binary approach ignores the full range of adjudicatory bodies, which find root in different constitutional provisions. Article 3, Section 1, Article 1, Section 8, Article 4, Section 3, Article 2, Section 2, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, and Article 2, Section 1. Right, so all those are different adjudicated bodies. And as you can see, a couple of them are under Article 2, which that would be the Commander-in-Chief, right? Article 4, that'd be the territorial courts. Article 3, well, we know what that is. And Article 1 is courts created by the Congress. But as it turns out, the courts under Article 2, the Congress ain't got a damn thing to do with. So I'm not going to try to read this whole thing. I'm just trying to show you now that, apparently there's a bunch of different courts. Right, so if you were to read this whole book, you talk about Article 3, Section 1 courts, and then enumerated power tribunals. Those are Article 1, Section 8 courts. Then you got military court-martials, military commissions, veterans affairs, federal claims, tax and customs, bankruptcy, citizenship. Those are all Article 1, Section 8 courts. Which is funny because I always thought bankruptcy was under Article 3. This says under Article 1. Then you have territorial courts, right, under Article 4, Section 3, for incorporated territories and unincorporated territories. Then you got some treaty-based courts that come under Article 2, Section 2, and Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, hybrids. And then courts of occupation. Article 2, Section 1. Land acquisition, armed rebellion, war with foreign powers. Well, check, check, check. They're all possibilities. And then you have administrative adjudication, which is all the administrative courts, like at Social Security and so forth, right? So you have all these different places that call themselves courts. And in contrast, certain tribunals do not meet Article 3 requirements. They have been labeled Article 1 legislative, not constitutional courts. But that isn't true because constitutional courts are not the only federal adjudicated bodies constitutionally grounded. Every federal court finds its locus in constitutional text. Hey, we just read that. Yet other entries, such as courts of occupation, have nothing to do with Congress, but under Article 2 are constitutional federal courts nonetheless. So you see, we could have some courts under the military then, right? And again, I think you should download this Catholic University Law Review. Federal courts, Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, Article 4 adjudication. Won't be hard to find. And so since there are, let's go take a look at what they might be. Because as it turns out, the Army has an Army regulation. I'm all about regulations. Army Regulation 2720, legal services for claims. And this regulation sets forth guidance, policies, and legal principles for investigating, processing, and settling claims against and in favor of the United States. This publication is intended to be used as a guiding policy for the procedures in Department of the Army Pamphlet 27162. So we should stop right now, and I would say you should write these down or go download them right now, right? Army Regulation 27-20 and DA PAM 27-162. This regulation applies to the active Army, Army National Guard, Army National Guard of the United States. That would be like the militia, which is any able-bodied male between the age of 17 and 45, something like that. Or if you've joined the selective service, right, you've registered, put you in there. So, it's pretty much anybody that's an adult in the United States could have access to this court. And this is who it applies to. Now, so the one it applies to is the people that may have to be responsible for the bill. Because as a civilian, you can take your claim to them. That's why I'm interpreting it. And we'll just scroll through the contents here. We got the Army Claims System, right? And investigation, processing of claims, check. Military Claims Act, Federal Torts Claims Act. These are all things that are, adjudicated under this system. Non-Scope Claims Act, National Guard Claims Act, international agreements. Those could be like treaties. Maritime claims. Claims cognizable under Article 139, Uniform Code of Military Justice. Check that one. I want to use that. Foreign Claims Act. Personal Claims Related Recovery Act. Non-appropriation funds. Claims Office Administration. Affirmative claims. Blah, blah, blah. It's quite extensive. And the purpose sets forth policies and procedures that govern the investigating, processing, and settling of claims against and in favor of the United States. So this is the first thing to pay attention to, right? If you're going to bitch, make it against the United States. Not the little person giving you a problem. You're going to put the claim in against the United States, and it's their employee or however that gets determined about that person causing the problem, that the system will correct itself. It'll all happen internally, through the gold fringe flag system instead of in the public in a judicial hearing at some court with the black robe priest sitting in it. Right? There ain't no black robe priest in this system. Right? This is all military. And let's look and see what they have here. So, got the Military Claims Act, which is incident to service, things that happen, while you're in service, not intentional problems, but people. So in other words, it wasn't malpractice or something like that. It just happened. But then you have this other one about the Gonzales Act that has suits against healthcare providers. Well, that's interesting. Certain suits arising out of legal malpractice, which falls under 10 U.S.C. 1054, which, that's a military title. So anything in the military title is, the military's. So apparently you can have suits arising out of legal malpractice. Well, ain't that something? Then the Federal Tort Claims Act, right? An integral part of the FTCA provides absolute immunity from an individual suit for common law torts. This is why you can't go after the individual. You have to say it's the United States that did it. Claims by the Postal Service for losses or shortage of postal accounts. I bet you every person in the military has this against them, right? We have some kind of claim by the U.S. Postal Service for some kind of loss or shortage in a postal account caused by unbonded Army personnel, whatever the hell that means. Some way that they could be withholding your entitlements. Redress of injuries to personal property, so forth and so on. Additional authorities under Title 10. 10 U.S.C. 2735 establishes that settlements or actions under Title 10 claims processing statutes are final and conclusive. The Supreme Court had nothing to say about this stuff. Right? This doesn't fall under Article 3 of any kind, so the Supreme Court's got nothing to do with it. This is all what happened in the Army stays in the Army stuff. And then this other 2731 provides definition of settle, which would probably be good to know. And then some things, aren't the Army frequently receives claims or inquiries that are not cognizable under statutory or other authorities established by U.S. Army under that DA PAN 27162. Every effort should be made to refer claims or inquiries to the proper authority. Right? So it's like they have to help you. That's the other point. I want to make sure I say that. And they have to assist you then in getting your claim done. The Tucker Act provides exclusive jurisdiction in the Court of Federal Claims over causes of actions alleging property loss under the Fifth Amendment taking. That's good to know. So if you have a claim where you want to say they took your property, right, you need to take it to the Court of Federal Claims under the Tucker Act. Unless it's the military that took your property. Well, then you could say that's an Article 139 hearing. Okay, so command and organization relationships. So we got the Secretary of the Army, of course, and you got the Judge Advocate General. Well, there's only one of them. That's TJAG. And TJAG has an office called the Office of TJAG. But TJAG is an officer. And the Office of TJAG is an agency. All right, but then under that, then we have the U.S. Army Claims Service. The USARCS, a command and component of the Office of TJAG, is an agency through which SA, that'd be the Secretary of the Army, and TJAG discharge their responsibilities for administrative settlement of claims worldwide, CAR 1072. The USARCS mailing address is, and they even give the mailing address, so at the end of the day, if you're not getting any relief through the rest of the system, well, there's the place to mail to. That's the way I looked at it when I saw it. I said, okay, well, I'll keep all that in mind, right? That the USARCS, the U.S. Army Claims Service, is the agency through which the Secretary of the Army and TJ discharge their responsibilities for the administrative settlement of claims worldwide. So everybody below them better be following this regulation because, that's their job, to make sure it's being followed. Then you got command claim services. So every, major command could have a claim service, which would make sense. But then you have these things called area claims offices. Now, what are they? Well, an office under the supervision of a senior judge, advocate, of each command or organization so designated by the commander, USARCS, right? So that commander we were just talking about, well, he determines who these people are going to be. The office under supervision of a senior JA, judge advocate, for each command and area responsibility of CCS, designated chief of that service, after coordination with the commander, USARCS, What is CCS? CCS. This thing about Army regulations, they only ever use the word once, and they go to the acronym. So you got to go all the way back again. Where did that come? Command Claim Services. That's what a CCS is. Okay. But anyways, that's those. But then, the Office of Counsel of each U.S. Army Corps of Engineer district within the United States, and such other COE, that'd be the Corps of Engineer, command or agencies as designated by the commander, USARCS, with concurrence of the Chief Counsel Office of the Chief of Engineers for all claims generated within such districts, commands, or agencies. The District Counsel to the attorney in charge of the command or agency's legal office is the lead of the ACO. Well, there's a whole lot said right there, right? Because the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers districts, well, those are all over the United States, right? They're like watersheds. In fact, hang on, I got it. So let's take a look at that real quick. What are we talking about now? Well, here's an example, right? Here's all the different districts, U.S. Army Corps of Engineer districts, and I'm in the Detroit district, but there's a Chicago district, St. Paul district, Omaha district. These are all districts. And each of these districts has a commander. Well, then these districts are each part of a division. All right, so all the districts here are now in the Great Lakes and Ohio River Division. So like the Detroit district commander is lieutenant colonel, but the commander of the division is a general, if I'm not mistaken. If we were reading here, we would find out there is a general in charge. Right, so well, there's general court martial convening authority. I mean, the whole, it's like a military district. It is a military district. That's what each of these are. In fact, when you look at how they split these up, a lot of them are split up along, river waterways, which is what the Corps of Engineers claims to have a jurisdiction over all the inland waterways. But then these districts are like they're all surrounded by water, so a lot of them are actually more like islands. Like each of these is a frickin' island of some kind, which I think is quite interesting. Okay, so that's what we're talking about, right? That the Corps of Engineers is in charge of this program that's been set up by the military. And just real quick about the Corps of Engineers then, right? It's an engineer formation of the United States Army. 3 primary missions. I was a member of the Corps of Engineers, by the way. So on June 16th, 1775, well, that's 2 days after the Army was created. That was June 14th, 1775. They created the Army. 2 days later, they created the Chief Engineer of the Army. Well, that dude's still in charge. All right, area administered by a lieutenant general known as commanding general / chief of engineers. So the guy's still holding us up. So this office was created before the Constitution, right? This is like Continental Congress when the style of the Republic shall be known as the United States of America, with a unilateral or a unicameral, not bicameral, unicameral legislature, just one level. Didn't have 2 houses, just had 1 house. Right, so it's the original. And 1779, the Corps is known today, came into being in 16 March 1802. I have to go read that act. When the President was authorized to organize and establish a Corps of Engineers, the said Corps shall be stationed at West Point in the state of New York and shall constitute a military academy. So the Corps of Engineers is West Point. All right, it's an engineering school. So, it's as old as the United States. No doubt about it. Okay, so right, we have the area claims office, which one of them for me then would be the United States Army Corps of Engineers, Detroit District, and such other COE commands, agencies as designated by the commander. Well, we have to ask this commander at USARCS what other ones there might be. And they're supposed to be on a website, and the problem is none of that stuff is there right now because probably no one's ever pushed the rope on it. So we're going to have to see. Now I've brought it to their attention that they'll, put this information on the website they're supposed to put on there. The district counsel, or attorney in charge of the commander agency's legal office, is head of the ACO. And I've actually contacted mine, and we had a very brief conversation, but he was on the road driving, and I said, well, I don't want to talk to you when you're driving. Call me. He said, I can call you later. And I said, well, later might not be good. How about tomorrow? Which actually was Friday, and I wasn't thinking about it. And, I believe Friday he was probably already starting his 4-day weekend. So we'll try it again on Tuesday. Nevertheless, right, there is somebody there. They do exist. And then the next thing down then is the claims processing office, which is really what we want. Where you get these things done at. It's normally a small legal office or ACO, subordinate elements designated by the commander. Right? The USARCS, the CCS, the ACO. These offices are established for the investigation of all actual or potential claims arising within their jurisdiction on either an area, command, or agency basis. 4 types of CPOs. Right? So they have this whole system set up to investigate people's claims. Who may be designated? The commander, USARCS, senior JA, a command, having the CCS, yada, yada, yada. May designate qualified attorney other than JA as a claims attorney. Right? So they give you the attorney. They're supposed to help you fill out the forms. It's all sorts of stuff supposed to happen. But I wanted to point out here, I was talking about it's supposed to be on a website. So this is where this AR 2720 goes hand in hand with this pamphlet, which is 27162, DA PAM 27162. So when it talks about claims offices, and they're almost identical chapter to chapter, right? You should go back and forth. But it says that the ACOs and their subordinate CPOs have geographic area of responsibility within the continental United States and command area of responsibility overseas. See USARCS website hosted on JAGNet, Judge Advocate General, at Claims Resources. Then 4 tables listing claims offices worldwide, Well, if you were to do a word search on this thing, Claims Resources, on this, you'd see there's all sorts of information that's supposed to be on this page right here of this website that isn't here. They talk about doing a personal claim, and that takes you to this page, which I actually went ahead and I did this, because to do this, you had to have a DOD ID number, and I wanted to see if it would accept mine and myself as being active duty still, and it went through. The problem is it's only for a certain group of types of claims, not one which I actually had. What I'm trying to say is there is something here. It just isn't very filled up. I mean, there should be all sorts of information. You got all these different claims offices here, which is each 4, but it talked about having these smaller claims offices, and it doesn't mention anything about all the different claims offices through the Corps of Engineers. So there's stuff missing. So then, for the Judge Advocate General, has worldwide Army staff responsibility for administrative settlement of claims by and against the U.S. government generated by employees of the U.S. Army, DoD components other than Department of Navy and Air Force. So Navy and Air Force, you have your own JAG to go to. They should have the same thing according to this. But again, this is the thing. If you send your complaint to these people and it's not the right place, they're supposed to direct you to where to send it to. I mean, they're supposed to give you information to help you get your claim settled instead of when you go to court now and nobody can tell you anything. All right? Can't get no legal advice. Can't help you in any way. Well, that's what we want. We want counsel. And that's what they have is these offices, like the Office of General Counsel and so forth. Who's got responsibilities? Well, if you want to know who's supposed to do what, they have it all listed right here. Command Claim Services, Area Claims Offices, responsibilities for claims processing offices, claims policies. The following policy will be adhered to in processing and adjudicating claims falling within this regulation. The commander, USA RCS, is authorized to publish new policies. Yeah, that should be good. Must be notified as soon as possible of both potential and actual claims, which are serious incidents that cannot be settled within the monetary jurisdiction of a CCS or ACL, including those which occurred area of responsibility of a CPO. Blah, 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 blah. Stuff goes on and on and on. Really wordy. But what that means is, well, okay, what is a serious incident? Well, if I'm still on active duty, I need to have an ID card because that's a treaty requirement that all members of the service members, have an ID card. Says the same thing in the DoD Law of War Manual. Well, that's a serious incident then because it's a breach of the frickin' Geneva Convention Treaty. Right? And the United States is liable for it. So I have no intention of trying to go through this whole thing because it's a bit much to take in, but it's just important to know that it exists, right? That there is somewhere to go other than where we've been taking our complaints to, and that's what I'll be doing next to see if any of this stuff leads to anything. But, because this is pretty cut and dried. An investigation is required when there is property loss or damage. Okay, well, those things have happened. There is personal injury or death. Now, it's interesting about injury is it isn't just like you stubbed your toe. This is like your rights, titles, and interests. Your intangible rights have been injured. So it can cover a whole bunch of things. And so the only way to identify what the claim is to give them a claim and let them decide what they need to do with it. Right? Do you have jurisdiction over this? Military person who are USR soldiers, including So what was this here? Determining who is a government employee is a matter of federal, not local law. This is really important. Determining who is a government employee is a matter of federal, not local law. Categories of government employees usually accepted as tortfeasors under federal law are military personnel. Military personnel are USAR soldiers, civilian officials and employees both of the DoD and the DA, civil service and other full-time employees of both the DoD and the DA, employees of non-appropriated fund instrumentality, if instrumentality of the United States and thus a federal agency. So like federal agencies then are under this. Prisoners of war and interned enemy aliens, civilian employees, the District of Columbia, Army National Guard, civilians serving ROTC, Army National Guard technician employees, persons acting in an official capacity for the DOD or DA, either temporarily or permanently, with or without compensation, included but not limited to the following: dollar a year personnel, members of advisory committees, commissions, and boards. Well, I say that's the veteran committee that we talked about in my last couple of videos, that they're under this. Volunteers serving in an official capacity in furtherance of business in the United States, limited to those categories set forth in DA Pan 27, paragraph, blah, blah, blah. So you can have people that are dollar a year personnel that are subject to this because of the dollar a year status I have. You know, because I had heard that, but I can't prove it. I never see any paperwork. So if you got it, show it to me. Right? That like a local district attorney or a county prosecutor, call it what you will, right? That they also hold a military office. Okay, well then they would be under this. So, you know, if you've been screwed by the DA for attorney malpractice, as we saw was one of the things that you could take there, right, to these people as attorney malpractice, well, there's how you get it in. Got to take it to the proper claims office. You just need to figure out, well, who the hell is that? What's their freaking address? Maybe just a couple other sections here to talk about, like how about filing and receipt of a claim? Well, all ACOs and CPOs will institute procedures to ensure that potential claimants or attorneys speak to a CJA. Now, it's a CJA. I don't remember. You have to go up farther and find out the first time it was used. Claims attorney, investigator, or examiner. Again, to get to talk to one of these people. A CJA, a claims attorney, investigator, or examiner. On initial contacts, claims personnel will render assistance, discuss all aspects of the potential claim, determine what statutes or procedures apply. Assistance will be furnished to the extent set forth in DA Pan 27162, paragraph 2.4, 2-4, right? So if you want to know how much they're supposed to help you, they put it in a pamphlet. To advise claimants on correct remedy, claims personnel will familiarize themselves with the remedies listed in that same DA Pan 27162. Identification of a proper claim. A claim is a writing that contains a sum certain for each claimant, and that is signed by each claimant or by an authorized representative who must furnish written authority to sign on the claimant's behalf. So hang on here just a second. The writing must contain enough information to permit investigation. The writing must be received no later than 2 years of the date the claim accrues. The claimant on the FCA may be presented orally to either the United States or the government of a foreign country. Yada, yada, yada. Where the claim is only for property damage and is filed in a circumstance where there might be injuries, the CJA should determine if the claimant desires to split the claim as discussed in paragraph 2.4. So you have one side for injuries and one side for damages. Because like property damage, you know, now we're talking like liability insurance if you damage somebody, right? So most liability insurance policies have like a $1 million or $2 million max per occurrence. So you could say the sum certain then is $1 million per occurrence. That's one way to figure out the number for a sum certain. But there may be times when you can't use that. We'll look in a minute. Normally, a claim will be presented on a standard form SF-95. When claim is not presented SF-95, claim will be requested to complete SF-95 to ease investigation and assign processing. So, yada, yada, yada. Now, I want to go back here before we get too far. I forget about it. Because, you know, I'm looking at these and for a few days. Well, this is one where Anybody who's in a court now, some kind of proceeding, can say, well, I'm a victim of legal malpractice under 10 U.S.C. 1054, and your proof that you are is the fact that there's a gold fringe flag in the courtroom. Right? Now, gold fringe flag is regulated by the Army. It had nothing to do with the frickin' Navy. It's not an Admiralty flag. It's a flag designated by Army Regulation AR 840-10 that says if you're going to display the flag of the United States indoors, it has to have a gold fringe on it. And then wherever it's displayed indoors is some kind of office that's tied to the Army. So, it's proof of occupation. The Army's here, wherever the flag is. There may not be any Army personnel there, but the Army's there. Okay, so, what about this legal malpractice under 10 U.S.C. 1054? Let's see what that had to say. Let's go look at that. So it says the remedy against the United States provided in these other two sections of Title 28 for damages for injury or loss of property caused by negligent or wrongful act or omission of a person who is an attorney, paralegal, or other member of a legal staff within the Department of Defense, or has a gold fringe flag. That's what I'm saying. You got a gold fringe flag, and you're, claiming to be in the legal department. Well, that's talking about you. In connection with providing legal services while acting within the scope of a person's duties or employment. So now, not too long ago, Dana, up in Kalkaska, and I talked to the Michigan JAG officer who agreed that we were still in the military, but said that there wasn't anything he could do to help us. Well, I think that was bad legal advice. He may have to go stand before the Corps of Engineers and answer for his actions. But you could say the same thing about the guy acting as the judge in your court case, because he doesn't have an oath of office to be the judge in your court case. Right? Title 4, United States Code, Section 101, 4 U.S.C. 101, has the oath that all state judicial officers need to take. And it's derived from 1 Stat 23, which is the first act of Congress signed into law by George Washington, President Washington, after the ratification of the Constitution, that says this is the oath that satisfies the 6th article of the Constitution of the United States. And nobody's taken it. I've done countless videos on it now, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I'm just saying. That's the way she is. So what do you do about it now? Well, you say, hey, that's legal malpractice. So then the Attorney General shall defend the civil action or proceeding brought, the United States Attorney, yada, yada, upon certification, shall be removed, so forth and so on. But anyways, right, this referenced 1346. If you look at 1346, then it talks about the district courts, right? This is where lowercase district courts shall have original jurisdiction concurrent with the United States Court of Federal Claims of. So what is that little district court? What's the little d district court? I say we're looking at it now. This one that's through the Army regulation, an Article 2 court created by the Commander-in-Chief. Any civil action against the United States for recovery of an internal revenue tax alleged to have been erroneously or illegally assessed or collected. So if you have an IRS issue and you've been taken to the United States District Court that you've been told the Black Robe Priest is the court you need to go to, and getting waved there by the Esquires, it's not the right fucking court. Right? Either it's the United States Court of Federal Claims or it's the district courts, little small d district courts. So I'm going to go to the small d district court. Right? Because I was helping a gal, Tammy, here a couple of years ago or whatever, did a number of videos on it where you can look at the paperwork they send people. They don't sign it. They're using forms that have been outdated by 10 years. They're using extracts of forms on a piece of paper and calling it the form, but it's really not the form. It's just an extract of the information that should be in the form. On and on and on. It's just blatant counterfeiting of the forms and so forth. But when you take it to the tax court, they don't seem to care. Well, apparently that's the wrong court. And then any other civil action or claim against the United States not exceeding $10,000 in amount, founded on either a Constitution or Act of Congress. So here's where your sum certain comes in. Make it $10,000. If you say they're violating the Constitution or an Act of Congress, right? That's your claim going to this. That's your claim amount to use in your claim. To file with whatever the hell this court's true name is. Yeah. So anyways, identification of the proper claimant. Well, they're supposed to help you with all this stuff. So claims acknowledgement. Claims personnel will acknowledge all claims immediately upon receipt in writing, by telephone, or in person. A defective claim will be acknowledged in writing, pointed out as defects. Where the defects render the submission jurisdictionally deficient based on the requirements discussed in the DAPAM, the claimant or attorney will be informed in writing of the deed to present a proper claim no later than 2 years after date of accrual. Yada, yada, yada. Then you can revise your filed claims, and the process of properly filed claims stops the running of the statute of limitations. Opening claim files, arrangement of files, mirror files, transfer of claims among armed service branches. So this is the thing. If you could, that's what I guess I would say now is, no matter what branch you're in, you take your claim to the Corps of Engineers and let them decide if they have jurisdiction, or they can send it to whoever it goes to. Determination of the correct statute. Goes on and on. This is what they're supposed to do. This is the claims office's regulation on what they need to do. So what we need to do is read what they need to do and say, well, this is what it says you need to do, and make sure they do it, because that's how it's supposed to work. So then they can investigate, and it goes on and on and on. And so then for veterans specifically, then I want to go to one special thing, and we'll be done. So hang on just a second. Right, Chapter 9, claims cognizable under Article 139, Uniform Code of Military Justice. Well, what does that say first? Let's take a look. Whenever a complaint is made to any commanding officer, now remember that the Detroit District's got a commanding officer. All these U.S. Corps of Engineer districts have a commanding officer. So that's the first criteria. There is one. That willful damage has been done to the property of any person, or that his property has been wrongfully taken by members of the armed forces, anybody with a gold fringe flag, he may, under such regulations as Secretary concerned may prescribe, convene a board to investigate the complaint. The board shall consist of from 1 to 3 commissioned officers, and for the purposes of that investigation, it has the power to summon witnesses and examine them upon oath, to receive depositions or other documentary evidence, and to assess the damages sustained against the responsible parties. The assessment of damages made by the board is subject to the approval of the commanding officer, and in the amount approved by him shall be charged against the pay of the offenders. The order of the commanding officer directing the charges herein authorized is conclusive of any disbursing officer for the payment by him to interested parties, blah, 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 blah. So it's a pretty powerful piece of Army regulation. Because, it said anybody can. It didn't say you had to be in the military, of any person. Right? So somebody with a gold fringe flag in their office has seized your property, well, then you have a right for Article 139 redress against that person. Because they're subject to the UCMJ. And so, I say any court case can do that. But specifically for veterans, because we're still in the military, we've never been released. We've never gotten a discharge order. We're actually still on active duty. And if you're an enlisted member of the military and you were to look at your DD Form 4 document, which is enlistment, reenlistment document, Armed Forces United States, it says in there that as long as you're an enlistee, you're entitled to pay I think it's allotments, pay allotments and other benefits. Okay, well then where is it? Apparently it's being wrongfully taken by members of the Armed Forces of the United States. That's my claim. Because I ain't getting it. And I don't have an ID card. So somebody's got a problem. That's, now we're talking about violating the treaty. This chapter sets forth standards apply, procedures, process, and claims for wrongful taking or willful damage or destruction of property by military members of the DA. Just say that they are, put the damn thing in, and let these people who have to answer to this regulation say, well, that isn't quite right, or whatever it is, right? I'm just saying that's for them to decide. You just put it in. If they don't disagree, then it must be an Article 139 matter that you took to them. Proper claimants, unknown accused. That's all taken care of. But what they can do, because at the end of the day, there could just be voluntary restitution. Right? That's what the United States can decide to do. All right, well, you're right. We're just going to give it back to you. Right? And that'll terminate the proceeding. And now the military can handle it themselves within the, what happens in the Army stays in the Army. There won't ever be any record of it. But you'll have your property back. Right? Claims cognizable. Claims for property willfully damaged. Claims for property wrongfully taken. That's what I'm saying. Wrongfully taken is an unauthorized taking or withholding of property with the intent to deprive temporarily or permanently the owner or person lawfully in possession of the property. Damage, loss, destruction of the property through larceny, forgery, embezzlement, fraud, misappropriation, or similar offense may be considered wrongful taking. However, mere breach of fiduciary contractual duty that does not involve larceny, forgery, embezzlement, fraud does not constitute wrongful taking. Again, that's up for them to decide. I'm just going to put the claim in and say it happened. And how do you do it? Well, according to 139, you complain to the commanding officer. And the commanding officer of the district where I'm in is the commander of the District of Detroit. Or Detroit District. Okay, just a couple more points I want to make. The Chief of Engineers, then, all engineer districts are ACO, that's Area Claims Office, and deal directly with the commander, USARCS, on matters of claims adjudication and processing, including mere file requirements, unlike ACOs and other ACOMs and ASCCs. However, the Chief of Engineers General Counsel has a major role in litigation and must be kept abreast of claims likely to be litigated. FTCA claims have a mandatory 6-month period of administrative resolution before claimants can file suit. Such claims, therefore, cannot be routed to USARCS through COE channels. COE officials must send the original file directly to the USARCS and route the information copy to a higher authority, blah, 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 blah. So everything gets pushed up the chain. And I don't know, I didn't talk about too much, but they talked about medical malpractice also, right? So every hospital's got a gold fringe flag. Well, no, excuse me. They have a flag and a flagpole, which is the other sign of Army occupation. Any flag in the United States is a sign of the military's occupation. That's the Army's flags. They wrote the regulation on them. right? That there is private display. I'm talking about public display, right? It isn't just displayed willy-nilly. It had to be, if you're displaying a flag of the United States, then you're under the jurisdiction of the military, whether you know it or not. It's just, finding the right office to take your claim to get the people with the gold fringe flag to go do something for you. Okay, well, I'm going to leave it there. That's where we're at right now. I filed a claim. The weekend got in the way. Tomorrow's a holiday, so I won't get a chance to talk to him until Tuesday. But I'm, going to try to file a 139 claim about the fact that, I'm still in the military and I'm not getting paid. And let them tell me what needs to be, what needs to be done. Okay, I'll leave it at that. You all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And, download these couple of regulation and pamphlet and start reading. We'll see if we have more to talk about next week. See ya.